Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Kerr, and I'm delighted to be chairing this panel this afternoon, Driving Corporate Impact in CSR. I'm delighted I'm joined by Sonia Charles from Adobe, and I have Chris Gale from eBay. So first of all, I want Sonia, please introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about what you do.
Sure, thanks, Sandra. Yes, I'm Sonia. I work for Adobe. I'm a customer success manager. So in a nutshell, I work with our customers who purchase Adobe products to ensure that they are able to get maximum value from their investment in the Adobe stack.
Thank you. And then we're moving over to Chris. Chris, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Chris Gale. I've been at eBay now for about 5 months, so still relatively new joined in lockdown, which has been fun. And I head up our social impact work in the UK for eBay. I joined from Ben & Jerry's, where I was for about 5 years, heading up, again, social impact work at Ben & Jerry's as well across Europe.
Thanks, Chris. Well, I'm really delighted and looking forward to this conversation because obviously I work at Business in the Community, the home of responsible business practice, in really driving organizations and encouraging them and inspiring them that, you know, they've got to contribute to make sure our planet, our workplaces, our environments, our schools, every place in the UK is a safe place and an enjoyable place to be, and we're setting it up for the next generation. So Sonia, can you tell me a bit about what Adobe is doing on CSR?
Yeah, of course. So as I actually should have mentioned in my introduction, I work within our social impact team. I'm a member of the London office social impact team. And at a local level, we have many CSR initiatives whereby we work with lots of grassroots organisations within the education sphere. That's my particular area of interest, actually, helping young people in underserved communities access digital, I guess, not just sort of hardware, getting access to laptops, etc., but being able to receive a kind of digital education, which is really key for young people today going out in the workforce. Many young people just don't have access to that on a day-to-day basis, whether that's because there are challenges in the schools that they attend due to perhaps that they could be excluded. For example, we work with organisations that work with children who are not within the school system, or any other reason. So there's a lot of focus around that with the youth that I work with. At a broader level, Adobe's got quite a big footprint in the CSR space, working on a range of projects around sustainability, societal issues really around social justice, working with, as I mentioned, grassroots organisations to help people who are perhaps not getting access, as I mentioned, to sort of digital tools really on the sort of regular basis. We do a lot of sort of environmental work as well. I've personally helped in local projects helping plant trees, for example, because it's really, we take a holistic view when we look at CSR. It's not just about the tech side, we helping to address multiple areas that impact people in society today. So like I said, it's quite a big footprint that Adobe has.
Thank you, Sonia. And some of the points you bring out about the planting trees and green spaces have come into really sharp focus with the challenges of mental health going on right now, pandemic, and having access to those green spaces and who has access and how we might improve that. So, the more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned, the more green that can be planted around all of our kind of, particularly in some of the urban areas, and ensuring that as much as possible, people have access. Chris, do you want to tell us about what your organisation is doing at eBay?
Yeah, sure. I suppose since I've come into the team, we've been through a bit of a strategic planning exercise to really try and narrow down what we do in the social impact space. And for eBay, it's about using this superpower we've got. We talk about superpower, but this connection with 28 million buyers in the UK and 300,000 sellers. Like, that is a huge thing when you think about it. And for us is increasingly around how do we support economic opportunity for marginalized communities. And and use our business, one, to take action, but also more and more, we hope, and this is an intention rather than a reality right now, to be an advocate for change as well, and try and really root that around how do we support that sort of structural exclusion of marginalized communities. And so that's broadly split into two things. So we have what we call eBay for Charity, which is we are this huge e-commerce platform for charity shops. So for charities to raise unrestricted funding through the eBay platform, it's exactly like as if you were going into a charity shop on your high street. How do you do that through the eBay marketplace? And we raise about £28 million through that every year, which is a lot of money. Our ambition is to raise that. And I think that why that's so important is because it's unrestricted funding. And that's the big challenge for charities right now, is how do they get access to that money that's not, you know, rooted in exactly what a funder wants. So that's one side of things. And our intention there is to really grow that and help charities to innovate. We've got a program called Charity Connect, which we launched this year, which was some funding to charities, 1.7 million, but more importantly, I think, was actually a training program for charities to get them to optimize their eBay offer, so that they were improving their listings, getting more money for what they're delivering online. So that's one side of things. And then the other side of things is more in development now, which is around how do we support those businesses that are working with marginalized communities to thrive through the eBay platform. And to be honest, more to come on that in the next few months as we start to develop the strategy. And then just a third part is going back to our sort of auction roots, I suppose. That's how we started, was as this big auction platform. How do we use auctions to drive attention to an issue and get and raise money for a particular organization? So we had one example of that was a Shirts for Change initiative we had slightly earlier in the year, which was working with the Stephen Lawrence Charitable Trust and auctioning off the Premier League shirts. That, if you remember, the first week back after the COVID after the COVID break, everyone wore the Black Lives Matter shirts, and we auctioned them off, and the money went to the Stephen Lawrence Charitable Trust. So we're trying to use, not trying to have something on the side that we do, trying to use what we do best and really build it into what we do best as eBay, to be frank.
No, thanks for that, Chris. And, you know, really interesting. Sonia, I want to pick up on the theme of education, because I think, you know, there's a huge piece about attracting people and reaching out and enabling young people to feel like there's a career for me in technology. Can you tell me a bit more about how Adobe's reaching out in education?
Yeah, as you say, that is key. You know, one of the challenges that we found when we're talking to young people about a career potentially in Adobe or tech generally is there's a misconception for many young people that it's just not an industry that they can work in. You know, we hear things like, well, I don't have a degree in computer science. I'm not very good at maths. I didn't really take to computing when I was at school. So there is a sense amongst many young people that this is a world that just isn't for them. They just don't perceive how they could possibly get into working for a big tech giant like Adobe or a Google or a Facebook, etc. So a key part of what we do in CSR is going, as I mentioned previously, to a lot of grassroots organisations, going into schools and talking to children. And my passion is to get children when they're quite young. You know, we work with older children as well. We work with students and graduates. But I think really you want to capture kids when they're quite young. If you can instill in them a belief that they can work within this industry, they can do anything, you know, but they can work within tech. It's really quite powerful. So we go to schools. We do things like demos of our solutions. We get children to do hands-on stuff with, you know, go into a laptop, use some of our products. We attend career fairs, networking fairs, etc. And we've hosted career days at Adobe for Black students in particular, who, again, we know there is a serious issue of underrepresentation, of course, of Black people in the tech industry generally. So that's one of a key area for us. We have obviously Adobe's Creative Cloud, which is probably what Adobe's known most for. And we've given access to millions of school children globally, in the UK as well, free access to our Creative Cloud applications as well. We believe that if young people get the opportunity to go in, use those tools, again, from a young age, get comfortable with them, understand that they are capable of building out things using our tools. This instills in them a belief that they can reach those, follow those paths into creativity. But a big thing for me is this mantra that if I see it, I can be it. We need to address underrepresentation of Black people in tech, because if young people see leadership that looks like them in tech industries, they will, that reinforces the understanding and the belief that they can actually reach those levels themselves. So that's, we need to look at both ends, as it were, working with young kids to bring them up, but also the other end of that line is making sure that there are people in leadership positions in tech to provide, a kind of impetus to encourage young people to get into the field.
Thank you for that, Sonia, because I've just recently published the Black Voices report, Race at Work, Black Voices report. And when we asked about role models, we found that Black people and, more likely to look inside and outside the workplace for role models, 47%. So that absolutely young people need, and we know that through every piece of research that we do, just being able to see people like me and, makes people think, okay, so maybe I can try. So really great thing Adobe's doing. Chris, I was really interested when you talked about, that economic empowerment piece, particularly investing in communities to enable that to happen. Can you tell us a bit more about exactly what, or is that the bit that's under wraps? So you're going to share maybe a bit?
That's a little bit of the bit that's in development. And I think the thing I can say is that that's about, I don't think it's about just sort of on a whim picking an area to go to, or looking at an opportunity that comes your way. It's about looking, for us anyway, it's about looking at the system and what can you do within that system? Because let's be honest, even as a big tech power eBay, we can only change, at a small amount. And so for us to do it, it's about doing it year after year after year, and not 12 months on saying, is this still the thing we're doing? Are we moving on to something else? And I think that's the bit that we're trying to really build into the business right now, is how do we go after the system? And I think for us, it's about looking at the ways of doing business that are inclusive by design. And there's particular business models out there, social enterprises, worker-owned co-ops, community-owned businesses, et cetera, that are doing that are trying to bring a sort of more human-centered approach to the economy. And how do we as eBay, and this is still the bit that's in development, how do we as eBay elevate and drive visibility to that work, I suppose. But it's saying we're going to go after this year, next year, and for the foreseeable future, because only then can we sort of stand behind the impact that we've made. Because I think as things emerge inevitably in the sort of public consciousness, media narrative, political narrative, there's this urge from businesses that we have to say something. And I think that's important if you've got something to say. If not, you want to step back and say, I'm willing to listen, and I want to commit our resources to listening. And I think that's what a lot of our HR team do, and our communities of inclusion internally do, is about having a platform for that listening to happen and getting the right people in for us to learn. And then when there's an opportunity for us to speak, we're speaking as an advocate because we've worked on an issue over multiple years, and that's where we're starting to move towards. So sorry, dodged your answer a little bit, Sandra, but we're still in development, but more to come.
Hey, that's okay. I don't want any kind of big secrets being revealed. Sonia, questions come through actually. It's about what you talked about, the Adobe, and it said, is access to Adobe for children strictly through school, or can they access it from home for free too, with a student account or something? Question.
Yes, so the Creative Cloud suite that we're offering is through schools, but we have individual solutions that are available for free that anyone can access. One is called Adobe Spark, for example. It's a great product that I don't know the age of the person who's questioning or kind of what age group they're thinking of. It's a great tool that I've used with schools from about the age 6 and upwards, that you can use to create videos, social blogs, newsletters, etc. That's completely free of charge. It doesn't have to be through a school. You can just create an account and run with that. But other than that, yeah, and there are obviously, as I mentioned, the Creative Cloud suite that we work directly with schools. So that would be the other way to access that suite of products.
And thank you, Sonia. And what this pandemic has highlighted with education, that depending where your school is, access to technology to kind of learn remotely has come into sharp focus. It's a different story for some than for others.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick up this question with you, and it asks about Black people and ethnic minority people specifically, but this principle is about inclusion, and it's about how can big tech companies allow Black people to feel like they're not filling a BAME target but actually it's because of their skills. And this principle reads across, if you're looking at gender, whatever you're looking at. Any kind of pearls of wisdom on this, Chris? What's important?
Pearls of wisdom might be too far, but just a couple of things. I think is one I sort of mentioned in just previously about communities of inclusion. So this is groups with the sort of self-organized groups within eBay that, again, I'm relatively new into the business, and the thing that struck me the most was how much attention these groups got, how engaged the wider business was in what the communities of inclusion were doing and hosting some of those conversations that need to be had. And I think that is an important part of it, is listening and learning. But I think the most important thing is, well, two things actually. One is like, what networks are we in and which partnerships have we got? And our HR team are doing great work around making sure that we're in the right networks. Not my area of expertise, I'll be honest about that. And the other bit is just, I don't know, it's more of a way of thinking and of approaching anything in the inclusion space, is getting everyone outside of this sort of charitable mindset much more into a social justice mindset. And that takes a long time, I think, because people sort of get that, we have, so we give, so we want to open up a little bit more in this sort of colonial power mentality sometimes. What we need to do is just make sure that as businesses, we're fostering those conversations around social justice much more, and that there are injustices in the world that we're not addressing because they're charitable things to do. They're because that's what we need to do to make this world much more inclusive, equitable, and then overlaps with some of the environmental justice discussions that we're having as well.
No, I agree with you there, Chris, because one of the things we know through even some of the reviews that have been sponsored, the Gregor Smith review, it's actually worth 24 billion per annum if we tackle, to the UK, if we tackle the racial disparities. So there's that also the benefit, the financial benefit that boosts the economy, that benefits us all in the end. And we know McKinsey have put out their research third year on about diversity wins, how inclusion matters. And it's again found that the more diverse the senior teams are by ethnicity, 36% is the increase on financial returns. And we see the same 25% for gender. So the difference in inclusion is not only just, this is really nice, patting people on the head and, trying to say, you all come in. But no, actually, it's good for business. It's good for us all. And let's not talk about mental health, everyone feeling better because they can give their talents. So final word, and you've got to be really brief. Sonia, anything that you say that you haven't said, and same thing with you, Chris?
I would just finish by saying I completely agree with what Chris has just said. I think organisations, when we're looking at CSR, when we're looking at diversity, we see a lot of organisations donating money to organisations, giving, saying I support Black Lives Matters, putting up a black square, etc. It's almost like they're externalizing the problem and saying this is an issue that we're looking at and that we're giving money to other organizations to solve. But I think tech companies need to look within themselves first and foremost at addressing those problems within them, within their organizations. And Chris?
Yeah, the only other thing is, I think, like, rightly or wrongly, businesses have got and brands have got a huge role in people's lives, and that role comes with a responsibility. And that means that if you care about stuff, you also need to be outspoken about that as well. And as a business, you need to be an advocate for change. And that's not when it's important in the media or political narrative. That needs to be on a consistent basis. And I think that's where maybe businesses and brands often let themselves down, is it's more coming into a marketing relationship rather than again, back to that sort of social justice point.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much, Sonia. And I think clear message here, sustainability. We're not here for just the fireworks. We want the long, the commitment to keep driving access to education and enterprise. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you.